Hi there, AJ. Thank you very much for coming and talking to me today. So AJ is a second year medical student at the University of Bristol. So AJ, can you just start by telling us what was before medicine? What have you been up to?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me, Amber. Before medicine, so if I could go back to like secondary school or high school, I started knowing that I was quite passionate about science. The only image I had in terms of what science could translate to was doctor, but I didn't quite know what the route looked like in terms of what you needed to study, what work experience you needed. So that was like year 7, year 8, just focusing on English, math, science, and then physical education. And it turned out that by the time I left secondary school, coaches and friends were saying that I had the potential to go professional football.
Wow.
So I had to make the decision, should I continue pursuing education or should I focus on playing football? And I kind of thought I had a short window, kind of like pursue it. So I went to a sports college in Gloucestershire for 2 years and just focused on playing football. It turns out actually in the interview, the interviewer was like, you have really good grades. You know, we do have a A-level service here at the college. Why don't you do A-levels? But it would take maybe 80% of your time and you'd play football 20%, rather being on the football course, you did it 50-50. So you played matches on a Wednesday, you could play for a local side on a Saturday, you trained twice a week and you had access to the gym. You learn about sports education, sports nutrition, sports journalism. Got good grades, didn't go, when I say didn't go professional, played for a good team, played in the FA Youth Cup and then moved back to London about 18 or 19. And then I just kind of thought life events kind of made me think, hey, what do I feel would give me the most fulfillment? And I just felt like I could play football, make decent money, but there was more.
Yeah.
So I enrolled on a course. It was called, it was a proprietary diploma at London Metropolitan University, and you just did basic sciences, basic lab work, and then you had an option of doing an elective, and I did mine in psychology. And I really enjoyed it, learning about like the periodic table, learning about biology and microbiology. And then that was about 18, 19. But it was about 20 that I thought, you know what? I feel like I want to become a doctor.
Okay.
So then I did I completed my bachelor's in biomedical science, applied just off the whim with hindsight, didn't do any research as far as like UK CAT,
Yeah. Okay.
or
Yeah.
anything. So I was like, I think I applied and I got a reply saying, oh, like, you didn't do the BMAT or the UK CAT. And I was like, what's that?
Yeah.
Then I then decided to do a master's in neuroscience. Applied after my first year, didn't get in, and I needed to extend my program by an extra year, so I couldn't like started. And then I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna relax. And then the 3 or 4 years, got married. My wife moved from America, worked at Great Ormond Street, went into
Nice.
surgery, met
Yeah.
up with doctors, and I just kind of allowed my passion to be challenged, you know, put myself in like vulnerable situations, you know, patients. So I worked on a cancer ward, so, you know, seeing newborn babies with cancer, you know, seeing consultants come into the office and cry. But those things kind of was like, I think this is definitely what I wanted to do. And then I applied in 2017, interviewed in 2018, and then deferred my entry to 2019. And now I'm here.
Yeah. So that is a long journey.
It has been.
Yeah. Has the drive to do medicine been, would you say, strong, like super strong throughout that whole time? Or were there times where perhaps you thought, you know, this is a long journey, I'm not quite there yet, and you thought maybe explored other avenues, or was it always medicine?
I think I was quite tunnel vision as
Mm-hmm.
far as, so like people like, oh, if you're passionate about being in that field, why don't you become a nurse?
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like, not to discredit nurse, but like we value
Mm-hmm.
them. They are our hands on our feet.
Mm-hmm.
But I just felt like I didn't want to do something and be resentful. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather keep going
Mm-hmm.
to when I knew I just couldn't do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think now they're like fields or specialties like physician's assistant.
Yeah.
This wasn't there when I applied. I
Yeah.
probably would have been okay
Yeah.
if I knew about physician's assistant, but
Mm-hmm.
because it was kind of like nurse or doctor,
Yeah.
I just said it's doctor all the way. But like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually happy now that I'm a doctor, because if I, well, studying to become a doctor, because
Yeah.
if I wasn't, I
Yeah.
probably would have said, you know, like physician's assistant it is,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But at that point, it was doctor or nurse,
Mm-hmm.
doctor all the way.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because now as we're studying, more roles are, you know, becoming aware of, or whether they've always been there, or whether they are new, because you can get like nurse prescribers now, speciality nurses, physician's assistant or physician associate, as you said. You can get huge, it seems like there's a lot more variety within the roles now, with different steps of responsibility. So I suppose that's, yes, definitely a good thing, but it's hard to know when you're not in the environment studying for it that it's available.
Yeah, I think at the time, so this was 2017, one of my good friends, his wife is a physician's assistant. She was one of the first cohorts to
Yeah.
be run in Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
And she was telling me about it. And I just, at the time, I think there were like 12 spaces in Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
It was very competitive, but like now there's universities in London that do, there's various places that you can do it. But at the point in which I was applying, I just felt my odds were actually more better becoming a doctor. But like, I think now, like you said, there's, you could become a nurse and prescribe, you can become a specialist nurse, you can become a nurse practitioner. So you can be varied and diverse in your expression, which I wanted. That's why I felt like doctor was the way for me.
Yeah. So just going back to your college again. So did you come out of that with official qualifications? I'm thinking about when you applied for your undergraduate degree. How was that sort of application process?
Yeah, I left with a BTEC.
Okay.
So that's, I think it was equivalent to like 2 or 3 A's at A level. But it was quite limited in what I could study. So I couldn't go from that to a BSc in biochemistry or biomedical science. I needed to do something that bridged the gap.
Yeah.
So that's why I spent a year just doing, I think they call it proprietary diploma. So it was just like probably what we'd call like an access course at Bristol.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you passed that, you then went on to study. So people went on to do forensic psychology, biomedical science. Some people went on to do psychology. Some people went on to do pharmacy or pharmaceutical science. So it was that kind of course where they just kind of prepared you for the next step. And I needed to do that. I couldn't go. So there was official qualifications. So like people on my course went on to do sports medicine at university because you learn about sports. While I couldn't do that.
Okay. And then when you found applying for medicine, obviously you had your undergrad degree, you had your master's, so that kind of took over. But did they then waive the A-level requirements because you had this access course and the undergraduate?
So I think one of the reasons why I did the master's was people were looking at my my GCSEs. No, people were looking at my A levels.
Yeah.
But obviously I didn't have A levels. So I kind of felt like for that not to be on the table, I needed to kind of like do a master's. But yeah, that was actually one of the reasons why I think I didn't get in the second time, because I had a 2-1, and you tend to find that universities are looking for any reason to kind of like whittle people down.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was that I didn't have A levels, though I did have a 2-1. So yeah, that was actually the main reason why I did my master's.
So when you were applying for universities, were there kind of some that you perhaps didn't meet their requirements because of your earlier qualifications, or were you able to actually, did you feel that you quite freely apply to any of them?
No, I was very restricted. I think the London ones weren't gonna tolerate that, and especially because I was born and raised in London, I was keen at the time to stay in London. I think my application that got me into medical school, 1 was in London, 3 was outside of London.
Okay.
And I just kind of thought I was in a mental space and a heart space to actually leave my family, leave the unknown, and kind of like establish myself. But yeah, to answer your question, yeah, a lot of London universities were looking at my A levels, and I guess naivety. I wanted the Oxford and Cambridge.
Yeah,
they were looking at A levels as well. But yeah, I guess someone told me that a medical degree is a medical degree, irrespective of where you get it from.
Yeah.
So I was at the time saying I wanted to go to the Kings, the Imperials, the St. George's, Oxford and Cambridge. The sun's coming out. Or no university, but like, man, I'm so happy I'm at Bristol. Bristol is a fantastic university and highly recommend it.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, take your time. Yeah. Is that okay? Oh, perfect. So was it more the prestige you were looking for? Did you actually look into the courses, or was there something about these courses, the way they taught, that you were interested in, or was it more the reputation and, you know, their standing that kind of attracted you to them?
Definitely the latter.
Yeah.
I think every application I've learned something new.
Yeah.
So I did not know about different schools having different teaching styles. And I'm happy I didn't go to Oxford or Cambridge. I've met students that have gone or go to the university, and yeah, you spend like 2 years just looking at the book before you do clinicals. Whilst Bristol, you can testify, like by the end of October, we had placements, we had HCA shifts, and that's the kind of learning that I have come to appreciate. But then I just thought all medical schools taught the same way. So yeah, at the time it was just reputation, or just it was just that.
Yeah, I suppose that's what universities spend years building themselves on. So, you know, it's bound to have a big influence. Do you think if you were to have applied from school, you know, qualifications aside, how different do you think your thinking behind the application would be different? You were talking about being ready now to leave London and explore somewhere new. I'm just trying to think, how do you think you would have approached it when you were younger compared to now?
I'm thinking, I don't think I was emotionally ready to become a doctor. I don't belittle any 18-year-old that wants to study medicine, but it's a heavy course. And I can't imagine being away from home, studying a heavy course, the volume, the demand, the restraint that's placed upon you. Like GMC came to Bristol and told us, you know, like if you're out and somebody's ill and you're a doctor, you need to step up. So it's kind of like you have to play for restraining yourself. They spoke about social media posting.
Yeah.
Like at 18, I'm still very much wanting to live my life. So yeah, I don't think if I got in at 18, I probably would have finished, but I would have made so many mistakes, so many professional mistakes, or character mistakes as well,
Yeah.
like social media and
Mm-hmm.
drinking and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, turning up, late to lectures or bunking lectures and
Yeah.
so
Yeah. It must be tough as well, though, on the football side of things. Again, when you're young, it's a big sport. There is kind of, money and prestige involved, and it must be quite difficult navigating that field as well when you're younger. So I think perhaps you can give yourself, credit for navigating that.
When you put it like that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So perhaps you learnt lessons in that, maybe, that you've been able to pull through.
You know what? I've never thought about it like that, but I think you are right.
Mm-hmm.
I think there were definitely things that I saw people do that I knew I didn't
Mm-hmm.
want to do, or there were
Mm-hmm.
some things that maybe me and my friends made little pacts in jest.
Yeah.
So one of my friends was like, "Oh, if we catch any one of you smoking," so there was
Mm-hmm.
like three of us. If we catch any one of the other ones smoking, we have the
Mm-hmm.
right to punch them into the chest, and that's the only reason why I never
Yeah.
smoked. But
Yeah.
it's those little things that kind of like taught me, oh, not
Mm-hmm.
to smoke. Like my
Mm-hmm.
same circle of friends, we would just be maybe having lunch and we would be like, oh, if I played for Arsenal, let's say we all played
Mm-hmm.
for Arsenal
Yeah.
and Manchester United came along and offered you a contract, what would you
Yeah.
do? And
Yeah.
I'll be like, oh man, like if it's more
Yeah.
money and like I get to play in a position, I'll take it. And they'll be like,
Yeah.
what? You would take it? So you would leave us alone? And those sort of
Yeah.
things taught me loyalty,
Mm-hmm.
commitment. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like there are definitely things that have kind of like kept me on the straight and narrow from football that have translated and transferred
Yeah.
to medicine.
Yeah, because I think that's a big thing that seems to come up a lot with mature students is just done quite a lot of things leading up to medicine, and whether they come in handy when you're studying or also trying to use those in interview to sell yourself and sell your ability on the course. I suppose it's trying to understand what you have learnt before and how it does apply. Do you feel that you got to kind of use that when you were in your application?
I think for sure, I think my story is somewhat unconventional in that, like, I didn't do A levels. I went to play football, and it's probably a beautiful story of resilience after
Yeah.
applying so many times. Though I don't put that in my application, but like you can, if you can see that I studied a BTEC at 18 and I'm
Yeah.
applying at 27. Something's happened in those 8 or so years that has kept this person going. And I think, yeah, leveraging on, teams, the ability to work in a team,
Yeah.
football, the ability, to deal with pressure, football settings. Yes, the sacrifice of like moving away from home at
Yeah.
16, playing in the FA Youth Cup shows it's quite a good standard. And yeah, I think those things I have been able to either put in my personal statement or bring up in examples in interviews. So Bristol, I think Bristol asked about resilience.
Yeah.
How would you define resilience in the interview? And I used a real life example that definitely helped and buttressed the point quite well.
Yeah, and for your work experience, what was the job when you were at Great Ormond Street?
Oh, so I started off as a medical secretary or a PA
Okay.
to consultant oncologist. So I did that for about 16 months.
Okay.
And then I moved to just general pediatrics for about 4 months. And then I moved into a more, it was a data and performance management. So I did that for about 18 months. So altogether, I was at Great Ormond Street for about 3.5 years.
Okay.
So I started as a secretary, and man, I couldn't recommend that role to anybody more.
Okay, more. Okay.
More. That
More,
wants to
okay.
become a doctor because
Yeah.
Like you had consultants like coming in and out of your office. You did their clinic letters. So like they would give me a letter and there'll be like so many words I did not know. but it was my opportunity to Google, oh, what's this
Yeah.
condition? What's that? You know, as you build a rapport, you know, you begin to ask, how did you get into medicine? You know, you find out that, you know, one lady's married to someone that she met in med school, or they decided to go to Australia for a year, or I heard one lady, I think she was paying for her tuition as she was studying in Russia. And I was just like, wow, you know, and it's just, you just heard people's diverse entries into medicine and like the sacrifices they've made to get to this point. You know, I think on at least 3 occasions I've been out for lunch or dinner with a consultant, and they've just kind of like asked me questions, you know, challenged me, and I've asked them questions. They've, you know, one of the consultants' daughter so she's, I think, 3rd year now. He gave me her UK cat books. So yeah, I think that role helped me see what becoming a doctor is like holistically. I've seen doctors cry after like, you know, a newborn baby born with cancer, like is given a terminal diagnosis, and yeah, you can't buy that. You can't buy that at all. You can't buy that.
Has it influenced kind of what you might see yourself going into in the future at all? Has it maybe drawn you towards that field, or shown you that this is perhaps not the area you want to go into?
I think it has shown me that I do want to be with people in their vulnerability. It has shown me that I am quite keen on working in a hospital, and I know that for sure. Unless the field of like becoming a GP or like working in the community changes, I like being in that clinical environment for sure. And those are definitely some of the things that I took from my time there.
Have you thought at all about how you can keep building on your resilience and maybe proactively, I suppose, protect yourself a bit from these harder moments? So, you know, you've seen consultants crying, you've seen how tough it is. Have you got any kind of thoughts on how you're going to kind of, I suppose, look after yourself in the face of those challenges?
I think knowing that you're part of a team and having people to talk to is really important. I think in the last year and a bit, I've started journaling, and that's something that's been able I've been able to like proactively do. And I think the pandemic has just showed me, or it taught me in year 1 how not mentally strong I thought I was, and that I really needed, you know, a consistent outlet. Like during the pandemic, we stopped playing football, but I just didn't think of you know, anything else. So I've taken up like running and stuff. More than anything, it's obviously I'm having to like work and do gym and do everything from home. Leaving the house and being in a new environment have helped. So those are definitely some of the things that I've seeking to do. And like in the future, I was actually telling my wife that I want to get like a bike. I think everyone in Bristol is either running or has a bike, you know, and I feel like I would like to get a bike, you know, just maintain a good mental health and leverage on the people around me for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And how have you found the community kind of moving from Bristol away from London? How has it been settling? And, you know, I suppose at this time of your life, changing city, moving, how's it been?
It's been better than I thought, in that I think the people that I've met have been lovely, both on the course, like yourself, the other mature medics, the local church that I go to. They've been a fantastic support system, but like because of the pandemic, I think I only just found the church January, and the pandemic happened in March. So obviously not been able to meet as many people. I have a uncle that lives in Bristol. I just been recently acquainted with him. So I think, and I'm married. And I'm married, so like having Michelle to just declutter or de-stress with has definitely helped, especially studying a course like medicine.
Were there any considerations kind of, starting an undergraduate degree at this time? Were there any, I suppose, not concerns, but did it factor in your personal life to starting medicine, or was it just, this is just another path, this is part of the journey? And I suppose her moving across as well, like how did you navigate all that as a pair, I suppose, rather than an individual?
Really good question. I think the comfort for us both is that, so we met when I was 19 and she was 18. She's always known I wanted to become a doctor. It wasn't just kind of like halfway through our relationship, I was like, you know what, babe? I want to become a doctor. And it was kind of a major inconvenience. But like, I guess she's always known that. So it was kind of like any moment now, it's going to happen. I think that's probably what's given her comfort. I think I think that's the number one thing that has probably given us both comfort, and ultimately it's a means to an end. Like I kind of weighed up, should I study the graduate program, do 4 years, or the undergraduate program? And then I just felt that, considering I'd been out of education for about 3 years, it might be quite hard to just go in and do a graduate program. That's why I was opting to do the 5 years. But obviously it comes at a cost in that I am self-funding the course, and I have to pay for an extra year, an extra year of like living, all that kind of stuff. But I guess counting the costs as best as I can, or as we can, I say, and just approaching everything as any new challenge arrives.
Yeah, nice. How have you found the academics after 3 years away? Was it a bit of a shock getting back into it, or did you feel like you got back into the kind of studying groove quite quickly?
I think I got into the love of like constantly learning quite quickly, but like I tell people, like the way of learning when I started my first degree, like in 2009, is totally different now. I went from like just using pen and paper to now having to learn how to use OneNote. And I came in just thinking, I'm going to learn by just rereading my notes. I've learned about Anki and Anki's pretty cool, and it's interesting just watching how like a 10-year span, so like if you compare myself to someone that came out of school, it used to annoy me when like someone would ask, do we need to learn this? But like, I guess them saying is kind of like, is this really important for me to like pass my exam? And that was new for me. Like I just thought, if it's on the slide, I need to learn it. So it's just kind of like, hey, rather than trying to set the goal to try and learn 100%, it's like you can't learn 100%. Learn the needful and hope that what you don't know you would learn in the future, or learn by experience. And that's probably the biggest adjustment for me. I thought, medicine, I'm going to learn everything. I'm going to read every recommended reading, every reference list. I just thought, you know what, it's not possible. Like you do the needful and just hope that in the future that your knowledge gap is filled either by experience or mentorship, or you have an opportunity to learn it again in the future.
I think that's what's so different in medicine with other degrees. So other undergraduates, they're 3 or 4 years, the kind of the arc of them, you can learn it all, and then by the end you expect to have a reasonable knowledge, whereas we're halfway through year 2 and we're really still just touching the surface on so much. And it's going to be years. Like, you know, you're going to come back to it on our placements, then in your foundation year, then if you specialize, which could be in 10 years time, you're then going to be coming back to this knowledge. So, you know, you've got to put the work in now to build the foundations, but you're by no means hitting your full knowledge. Like I know this 100%, which is quite difficult to get your head around sometimes, especially as you come, especially you come from a background where, you know, you've done some academic studying, you're used to maybe feeling like you know the content. So yeah, it's a bit overwhelming, isn't it, to then balance that with, okay, well, I'll know this a bit, but I'll leave this bit perhaps for later.
It has definitely and still does leave me occasionally with feelings of insecurity. Like I'm just feeling like, I want to go deep in learning what this is, but it's just like, for the sake of time, I'm just gonna learn the top 2 and then move on. So I have like I guess year 1, my goal was try to go deep, but like I just felt like realistically, I think I need to try and go wide. Where I can go deep, but it's good to learn 80% of 80% of the content rather than 40% of 2 content.
Yeah, I think as well, I find that I have to be more disciplined, because the bits I like, I spend a lot of time on. I'm really interested, and things like anatomy is not my strong point, but it's important and I need to know it. But it's hard putting the work in when just want to go do some biochem and you look at some pathways and so I think because there is such a breadth, you do have to make sure you're putting the time in across all the different sections. So still learning lots. I feel like from what you know now, if you started again tomorrow, would you kind of do things differently? I suppose we've just talked about the way of learning. Do you think that's just an inevitable learning curve you have to go through, or would you start again differently?
If I know what I know now, I would definitely start again. Definitely.
Yeah.
I would definitely. I think, man, if I looked at how I studied my previous degree, I just I was kind of just fluid with it. Like there were times, I don't think 2 or 3 months will go past where I didn't spend all night in the library. Like I just enjoy just, you know, I'm just gonna go home, get some food, and then take a cab to the library, and I'll just be in the library all night. I would write my notes and then highlight. Like I'd print off articles or like take photocopies of books and stuff, and I have like my little suitcase with like 6 textbooks in it. I think now I've kind of said, you know, like technology has improved, leverage on it, you know, use OneNote, use Anki. At some point I would like to invest in an iPad, you know, and it's those kind of things that, you know, like if you can save some hair, you know, from being pulled out by just buying a new gadget, or you know, not spending 2 hours going deep in something, when just understand the concepts for 1 hour and then move on. Those are definitely some of the things I would do differently again if I could start again.
I suppose it's kind of high yield learning, isn't it? It's kind of what you need to know, what's the summary, and that's a skill in itself, is skimming off the top what the key parts are. So I think continual learning, but I feel like we've still got time to apply these things and to make them count. So
you're right, and definitely the organization of the information. I think I'm kind of like now trying to find a way of like thinking systematically. So rather just learning like year 1 or learning this case, it's kind of like, where does this build on top of? So like year 1 we learn about human health and well-being. It's now, okay, how does symptoms link with that, rather than just compartmentalizing everything. So it's finding a way to kind of like layer it, because I guess that's the intention or the plan of the university and them teaching us the way they're teaching us. that everything is organized in a way that you have like a whole picture of something.
Yeah.
You know, the anatomy, you know,
Yeah.
innovation, blood supply, symptoms, and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think sometimes you don't realize maybe how much you've learned, and then they'll bring it up in a different context, and there'll be this, you know, you'll be like, oh, this is familiar, just in the back of your head. Maybe you might not be right on it with the, you know, correct anatomical term or the but you'll be like, oh yeah, I know
remember
this a bit.
this coming back to me.
Yeah, I know this. So yeah, we'll get there. So kind of just, we did touch on this a little bit when you were talking about your experience in the hospital, and you want to work in the hospital. Is there any particular speciality that, you know, you're really drawn to, or are you generally quite open-minded about speciality within a hospital?
I am keen on pediatrics and neonatology. That's kind of study of like a newborn baby. But I think I've kind of been forced to be open. The more like I watch programs and speak to other people, and just learning that by the time I finish med school, I would be about 33, still married. And it's kind of like, it's more than just picking a specialty. It's kind of like, how does it fit with the other parts of my life that make me me? So I am keen on pediatrics and the study of the newborn, but yeah, I'm open. I'm open. I know there's some things I don't want to do, like psychiatry and psychology, GP. But if I was to be a GP, I would want something else. Like I would want maybe to do research and something. I wouldn't just want to be a GP, or maybe I don't know if GPs, I think GPs can now specialize in a particular area.
Yeah, I think they can. Yeah, definitely. And pick up research and areas of interest.
So yeah, I might want to do that. But at the moment, if anyone says, what do I want to do? It's pediatrics or neonatology, but I am definitely open.
Yeah, I think before we get to placements, we kind of have to be a bit open-minded. But coming from different backgrounds, I think it's, you know, you're bound to be influenced a bit by your experiences and by your life setup. So yes, we shall see. We'll check back in a few years' time and see what path you've gone down.
We will.
Well, thank you so much for talking to me today, AJ. I'm sure you've inspired a lot of people that are thinking about starting medicine, perhaps, or people that are studying. And it's always nice, I think, to hear that other people perhaps having the same things about the breadth of study. And, you know, there is so much to it. And I think everyone experiences similar things. So hopefully hearing about your story will reach a lot of people. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and keep studying, keep playing, doing that running, and enjoy your new bike.
Thank you, Amber.
And I'll talk to you soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.